So I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening for our virtual opening reception with the BSB Gallery Zoom. My name is Christy O'Connor, and I am one of the curators and managers of the BSB Gallery. As a reminder of Zoom etiquette, keep your microphones on mute until we reach our Q&A section. I am actually hearing like a feedback thing right now, so even if it could even be for artists, so you might want to mute if you're an artist right now. I know I've said it several times, but I'm going to say it again. If you're interested in typing your name and where you're from in please do so. For those of you who are not familiar with the Gallery, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are located in the downtown Trenton area, and we are funded by the Downtown Association, and we are supported by the generous grant funding of the George H. and Estelle Underpants Foundation and by IRA, with the support of the New Jersey Neighborhood Revitalization Tax Credit Program. We were established in February of 2018, and we have artists from all over the world and have had over 20 exhibitions in our gallery space, and now virtually on Zoom. So exciting, guys. So, although it was our original intention to have this exhibit in our physical space, it is very disappointing that we couldn't coronavirus. We are hoping that the silver lining is that we just are able to broaden our audience and reach people that we might not have necessarily been able to reach in the past due to our location or other factors that might, hindered someone from joining us in a physical location before. That being said, I am very sad that a lot of the artwork won't be on, the artwork is not in our physical location. There is so much beautiful and intricate detail that all of these artists provide in their work. There's embroidery, there's collage work, all different sorts of materials are used. Even, it's just, it is a shame, but I'm really hoping that this is an okay alternative for everyone. And, I'm so glad and honored that everyone is still willing to be in this exhibit with us. So, yeah, that being said, I would like to introduce you to Here We Are, featuring 5 incredibly talented artists. I'm just so honored to know all of you and have the privilege of knowing you. It's just, the artwork resonates with me, and I feel like it should resonate with everyone who sees it. It's so moving and powerful. So without further ado, we have Layo Bright.
Yes.
So Layo, I don't know if you can turn your speaker on and wave so everyone knows it's you.
Hello.
And we have Beverly McCutcheon.
Hi.
Komikka Patton. Komikka's waving. She's on mute. It's okay. Josie Roebuck.
Hi.
And Theda Sandiford.
Hi, guys.
So, yeah, at this time, what we're going to do is I'm going to give the feed to each artist, and they're going to take turns just sharing a little bit about their practice. And we're going to go in alphabetical order because that's like what I like to do. So we're going to start with Layo.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is my first virtual opening, and it means a lot that you all showed up, so thanks. My name is Layo Bright. I am Nigerian, and I live and work in New York. I had a law degree before I came here for an MFA in 2016, so it was a bit of a shift of career, but it's been great just being able to express, African narratives, which I'm very interested in, especially through my identity. and also from a lens of being a migrant woman working in the US. So basically, I employ the use of materials very strongly in my work. I make sculptures predominantly, even though recently I learned screen printing from my friend Jonathan, who's in the chat. Amazing, shout out. But yes, I make sculptures predominantly, and sculptures that right now explore my likeness. So you'll see one in the background, which you'll also see in the show. I'm really interested in how materials imbue history and have strong historical connotations and significance. So one material I mostly use is this. So you might all be familiar with this bag. And we call it Ghana must go bags in Nigeria, which goes back to the history of the 80s when the president decreed that all Ghanaians in the country should be expelled. So I look at it from the xenophobic, migratory lens of what the material connotes as a Nigerian and from West Africa. But coming here and realizing the bag was sold here was so interesting to me, and how it has its own history here. It's related to class and nomadic experiences, and I really find a lot of meaning in the universal or the global symbolicism of this bag, and how it has, I guess, ties to a lot of things that apply to different cultures. So I'm really interested in the materials in that way. And I also use like fabrics, like for example, this is my mom's gilly, which is a head tie, and you'll see that in the show. I'll talk more about that. But I kind of use them similarly as what you see in the background as a head tie, which explores, I guess, my identity as a Yoruba Nigerian woman, and self-care, self-representation, and cultural significance that I think is very important to showcase in a world that I feel looks to the relics and the artifacts of African identity rather than to the present. So thanks.
Thank you, Layo. So next is Beverly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Beverly McCutcheon. I was born and raised in New Jersey. I went to college in Nashville, Fisk University. And that's when I met and was instructed by David Driscoll, Martin Purrier, who is one excellent, world-known sculptor, Earl Hooks, Stephanie Pogue. And I was too chicken to major in art, but the art department was my home. Every chance I got, I spent my time in the art department. It wasn't until I've always done artwork, but not to the extent that I do now. After I retired, I really delved into my work. I had the time and I had the ideas. I joke with some people about the fact that I used to have a flip chart in my head. And in this flip chart were all of the pieces that I wanted to create. And now I'm getting a chance to do that. Collage is my absolute favorite medium. I have done painting and I've done portraits, but I also love drawing. And all of the pieces in my present series, which is the wallflower portraits, all of the faces, I've drawn all of the faces, graphite pencil. And I use leather as my, as another medium. All of my ladies or my girls are encased in what I call leather pods. And I've been doing them for the past several years now. And I hate letting them go. I do, but now they're like my girls. The whole idea of them came from the idea of being a wallflower. And henceforth, all of my backgrounds are made with wallpaper that has been discontinued. So you're not going to see it anymore unless, you know, somebody's selling it in a thrift store or whatnot. But it has to do with women and little girls who basically are wallflowers. They're usually shy. They like to blend in with their backgrounds, but my wallflowers can't because they're all so beautiful to me. And I hope my viewers see them as the same thing. I tell people that I am shy, and I am. No one believes me, but I am.
Liar.
Stop it, Theda. It takes a while for me. I'll stand in the background and I look and I see where I can go. But that's all in being a wallflower, trying not to be seen. And I want to encourage little girls who were or are like myself to come out and show your beauty. I encase all of my wallflowers in what I call pods because I don't want the viewer to look at body parts, arms, legs, butts. You can decide what position the wallflower is inside of her pod. But I want you to look at their faces and talk to their faces and not to their bodies. I look for expressions that are kind of quirky, you know, and I will use that expression. Sometimes I use magazine expressions, and I'll use those expressions to create my wallflowers. I might switch the noses up and switch the eyes up to try to make a totally different person. Also, I love to adorn them. It's just like dressing a doll baby. My sister helps me a lot. She brings me all kinds of goodies. Maybe you can use this, maybe you can use that. But the fun is dressing them up. Sometimes it takes me a very long time to finish a wallflower because I have to have just the right components. And I guess Theda can, and the other artists can agree with me on that. You have to have just the right thing to adorn them with. Recently I've started creating 2 wallflowers in
Yeah.
my portraits. So I have one in the show now, and I have 2 more on the table. They may not get off the table yet until they're fully dressed, and until they've told me their names. The names are extremely important. I try to choose strong names, but sometimes the name will just come to me. And I'll look at my piece and say, oh yeah, that is you. And then I research the name, and 9 times out of 10, that name means exactly what I want it to mean. To go with that piece. It's creepy, but it is. I'm working on a piece now with 2, the piece that's in the show with the 2 wallflowers, Lolly.
Yeah.
I heard that name twice in one day in different like I heard it on TV, and then I read it somewhere, and I said, Lolly is such a strange name, but it fit my wallflower, so you'll get to see her. And basically I also like to do assemblage. Yeah. And I love sculpture. I have a sculpture in the show, which you'll see soon as we go through the exhibit. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Komikka.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Komikka. I am a comic book artist. I am a painter, illustrator, installation artist. Also, I'm heavily based in drawing. And some of the work that I have in the show today is some work that I actually did for my MFA thesis from about 2 years ago. That kind of centered on this mask that I named Mother. And I actually got this mask in South Africa in 2017. I was doing a study abroad program. And I bought this mask on South Street for about $40, and I put her in my studio, and we started to actually be able to have dialogue and a conversation. I named her Mother, and she kind of reminded me of meeting myself, my mother, my grandmother, and our relationship with the universe, and our relationship with the world. And so she kind of infiltrated every piece that year. Yeah, so and some of the pieces that I have is Mothership and Motherboard. So I also like to consider myself, I know this is so cliche at the moment, but I am an Afrofuturist, and I deal with making and creating worlds, whether they be utopias or dystopias. And so she kind of places herself as a mothership, and that's the three-headed piece, the three-headed mask with the landscape of South Africa. And also Motherboard, in which I was trying to capture this moment of ecstasy, of being super excited of finding out that you're Black. The pieces before Mother came into the picture were a little bit more focused on trauma, so I wanted to kind of encapsulate this sense of ecstasy and happiness. But yeah, so another piece that I have there is Pillars of Creation. It's a little bit more recent, a little bit more contemporary. Still dealing with space, still dealing with creating worlds, still diving into time traveling, other dimensions. And, yeah. If anyone has any questions, I know I said that pretty fast. So.
Well, I'm I'm dumbfounded. I can't find my words.
Okay. What else can I? Yes, my work after maybe this series that I did with the Mother, I actually created a comic book dedicated to humanizing our mothers, dedicated to humanizing almost Mother Earth. So it's a little bit on the spiritual side, but yeah.
And well, we'll get to see it, but I really do love the graphic nature of your artwork, and how there's like a huge contrast with your work in the space with everyone else's very colorful pieces. We have kind of like standing out there. It's
Just
great.
to let everyone know, all the pieces that are Black and white are mine. It was super exciting. I've always been in shows that have kind of catered towards Black and white. I've primarily used ink, sometimes black paint. But yeah, so it was kind of interesting to see such a vivid color right next to the Black and white installations and drawings. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Komikka.
No problem.
Up next, we have Josie.
Hi everyone. Again, I am Josie Roebuck. I am pursuing my MFA at the University of Cincinnati at the moment. So I'll be a second year this coming fall. I received my BFA with an emphasis in drawing and painting in 2019 at the University of Georgia. And that's when I fully discovered my voice as an artist, which is to speak up about the emotional destruction that sexual assault can bring to someone. So as myself, a victim, I'm not only sharing my stories, but I'm also sharing stories that other survivors have disclosed to me. I use my portraiture as a respect to other survivors. Sometimes they are not ready to be seen, but they need their stories to be told. It's taken me a while to get to that point, but I'm finally able to put my portraiture out there so people can see me and kind of see me as a therapist in a way, so they can share their stories and get their voices that way out. So the subject matter is very important to me, obviously, because it's a personal one to me, but it's one that the world needs to know about and understand what a victim goes through after such a traumatic event. I mean, we have seen paintings, fantasy paintings of rape traditionally done by men, but with my work, I'm giving back the voices to rape victims and sharing stories that are true. I've also recently started getting into my race. I'm a biracial woman. I was adopted by a white family. So I've had a life where I don't truly fit in certain places, and I've had things said to me, as you'll see in some of my work in the show tonight. So I addressed that and just certain circumstances that made me feel uncomfortable and unwanted. So yeah.
Thank you, Josie. So last but not least, we have Theda Sandiford. Hi, Theda.
Hi, I'm Theda. Nice to meet you. I know many of you, and those of you I haven't met, I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm really excited about this show because there are not enough shows where our voices get to be heard. And the diversity of artists on this call is extraordinary, and everything that I've heard up until this point is inspiring to me. So thank you for that. I am a mixed media artist. I am also an installation artist, and I use recycled materials to bring stories to life. I see garbage as beautiful. Often, as a Black woman, I am perceived as garbage by other people. So if I can turn that into beauty or other things that people discard, I can apply my own life experience to that. And that of an imagination of who touched this thing before me and giving it a second life. So that is a pretty powerful thing for me. And when other people connect to that, that's just, that's whipped cream and gravy on top. And that's the extra piece of chocolate cake my doctor says I shouldn't eat and all that kind of stuff. Most of the work in the show is work that I've done over the past couple of years. In the last 2 years, I have been focused pretty solely on fiber works, making works with people. That was my intention, to show those works in the show, but three-dimensional soft sculptures that are 100 feet in length don't really show up so good in a virtual gallery. So I made the choice to switch up the images that I would show here. But hopefully, I think we have a date for it. I'll be doing a virtual workshop, which is my I Am My Hair workshop, which just came about from riding the Patton and having randos come up to me and touch my hair because they think it's cool. And maybe post-COVID, people will know not to touch, maybe, but probably not, because it's just another way to fetishize me. And in a way, they're asking, how are we different instead of how are we the same? I have hair, you have hair, or you don't have hair, and maybe I don't have hair in certain areas and I take it away. So in a way, we're all the same in that, and we all have a story related to our hair. What we want, what we don't want, how other people perceive us because of it. Allowing myself to go gray was a real big deal for me. Big deal. And just seeing how other people respond to me. I don't get more seats on the train, although I haven't been on the train in a while. I thought I would get a little more seats. People aren't nice. But when I'm on the plane, I haven't been on the plane in a couple of months, but they help me lift my bag. That's nice. That means I break less nails. But I've had to come to terms with how people respond to me as a result of my hair. And through the workshops, it creates an opportunity to have a conversation about race and identity in a way that is non-confrontational, where I can say, that's just not okay. Don't just, yes, I know you think my hair is cool, that's not okay. I was wearing my hair in dreads for a while. Beverly was too. I'm sure she had people coming up to her, commenting on her hair, trying to touch her hair. And it's like, I just, some well-meaning people will come and they'll just do that. And when you sit down and have that conversation with them, they realize, wait a second, maybe I am fetishizing somebody. And to be able to open up and have these kind of conversations, this is a conversation I want to take into all sorts of communities, with young people in particular, because they are just now starting to think about the rules that the world imposes upon them, which is all fake shit and doesn't mean anything anyway. So I'm just excited about being engaged with people, and I really, really, really miss making work with peoples. There are some people in this meeting here today, and shout out to Beth and Amy and even Beverly, that have been to my studio to make the work with me. It creates community. It's in the tradition of sewing circles, which is very much part of our culture. And to take that forward and bring in other conversations around that, that's super exciting for me.
Thank you, Theda. And so I guess we're going to get started on that guided tour. So before we get started, I do want to let everyone know that I was working through some technical issues with the site earlier today. Fingers crossed, everything is working now. But if not, we have a backup plan, so don't worry. So basically, I'm going to go into a screen share, and we are going to go on a tour of Here We Are. So I had originally planned on making this tour, giving everyone a little bit more of a tutorial on how to navigate this site on their own, because this will be up until June 20th. But because I'm a little nervous that, like, if I go out of the site and come back in, we might lose it. I'm going to limit that tutorial a little bit to just what's on the screen now. So that being said, I want to let you know that if you go to this little icon here, you go down and you can get information about the exhibit. And it tells you that it's from now until the June 20th. And the brief synopsis of Here We Are, which we haven't really gotten into, is that this exhibit really does explore race, gender, and identity through mixed media, collage, and portraiture. The artists focus on many facets that have affected them as African American women in their lives, including the diaspora, family history, trauma, the need to hide, and the desire to be seen, and how this impacts them in their own individual identities. So along with this toolbar, you could do a, let's see. We also have a list of works. So each artwork is listed in the order of what you would see in the tour. And it has information on each work, who it's by, the medium, the price. And we also, you could do an automatic tour in the gallery, which we're not going to do because it gives us a little bit less control. But if you want the, if you don't want to do any work, you could just click this play button here and it'll just take you through the whole gallery space. But we're gonna do it the manual way. Oops. And that's not what I wanted to do. But these arrows, let's see. Oh no, I just did a thing. It's a little finicky this site, guys. So I'm gonna go back to start. There we go. And I'm gonna use the arrows to take us through the space. Boop, boop, boop. And we're just gonna start with the first piece on the tour. And this is I'm Known as Zenobia by Beverly McCutcheon. And Beverly has chosen to talk about this piece, I believe.
Yes. Are you ready for me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. This is one of my newer pieces. I Am Known as Zenobia. Zenobia, the name Zenobia is of Latin origin, and it means like a force of Zeus. Zenobia was a very, very, let's see, how would you describe her? Maybe she was a powerful queen in the third century, and that name Zenobia became very, very popular during the, let's see, it might have been during not the 19th century, but a little bit later. And I gave her wings because I like wings. And the wallpaper in this one is a little bit different from the wallpaper that I usually use as a background, but it fit her. If you were able to zoom in on Zenobia, Zenobia has freckles.
I'm gonna try
She,
to zoom in. Let's see.
you think you can?
I'm gonna try.
Okay,
I
but
don't
if
think
not,
it's
if
letting me.
not,
Your phone, it does let you zoom in now.
right. If not, you can go on my Facebook page or my Instagram page, Beverly McCutcheon Art, and you can see her in more detail. But I think she's very beautiful, and her pod is made of two different types of leather. Also a suede. The gold is a suede leather that I chose for her. And that's Zenobia.
Awesome. I'm just typing in the chat right now, guys. If you have any questions, please let us know. So, and then basically, the way we're going to go through the tour is I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to hit next. And it's going to bring me to the next piece. Again, you can use these arrow buttons on your own time and zoom in and out on each individual piece. It's lots of fun. And so yeah, our next work is Where Is My Mother by Komikka Patton. And this was made in 2018 and was made with India ink and ballpoint pen. So if you have a phone, again, you have the ability to zoom in and out on the image to take a deeper look and dive into it.
Okay. Well, this was part of my MFA thesis. Mother used to scream, and when I heard her chills came on my skin. Created with India ink and ballpoint pen. And usually when it's presented, it has dramatic lighting. This is my first time to virtual gallery, so I can understand like some of the dark corners may be a little strange. But yeah, so I'm a total comic book fanatic. So dramatic is where I'm at. So yeah, created after my trip to South Africa, and this is the absence of the mask. So it was in the search of the mask, almost as if a tantrum is taking place. If you look left to right, the hands kind of go from calm and kind of subdued to more active and a lot more aggravated.
Beautiful. So we're going to go to the next image. This is titled I Am Sorry by Josie Roebuck. And this is made, oh, I forgot. Also, when you click on information, you can get all the details about each artwork. So Josie gave us an entire description about the work. So, and this work is made with oil pastel, charcoal embroidery, and it's cut out on wood panel. So if, I don't know, Josie, do you want me to read the description?
You can if you want. It's just has a poem with it. So
Or
that can be read.
would you prefer to read it?
I can read it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me see where it starts. It's really small, sorry. Okay. So the poem goes, sorry is a funny thing, especially when someone takes away your voice. But I'm sorry. Sorry for how insecure you are. Your stupidity and your lack of power. I am sorry. You are so weak. Sorry you believe taking advantage of someone is normal. That you think you have power, but in actuality, you have zero. Zero power over a victim. Yes, zero power. Despite taking away victim safety and giving them nightmares, I feel sorry for you. You thought you had all the power, all, but you are pathetic. Power is never taken away. It lives in everyone. I am sorry. You think scaring someone takes away their power, but in actuality, you're just providing the fuel to ignite the fire. I am sorry you brought hell upon yourself. I hope you can forgive yourself. I am sorry.
And Josie, we have a question from Phil.
Yes.
He's asking, how long did it take you to make this?
So I was working on this piece, and I Forgive Myself, which is also in the show, and that took me close to 2 months to complete.
And do all of your pieces come with poetry?
No, just these two embroideries do.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next piece. This is We Are Viola and Lolly by Beverly McCutcheon.
Yes. As I said a little bit earlier, I've started adding more than one figure in my work. And this is the first set of wallflowers. This is the first wallflower piece that I've done, whereby there are two figures. And Viola is the name that means violet. Back, I think it was in the 19th century, names of flowers became very popular names for people to give to their daughters. So you get your rose and your violet and what have you during that century. Lolly, like I said, came about because twice in one day, strangely enough, I heard that name. I have these two figures facing each other. They could be mother and daughter. They could be mentor and child. But it reminds me of me and my grandmother, because my grandma taught me everything. She would drag me around the house when I was little and show me how to do things like put water in the furnace and how to stretch the curtains in the spring. But in this piece, the adult is on the left, and naturally the little girl or the young girl is on the right. And they're facing each other because there's knowledge going back and forth. There are feathers in this piece also on their headdress. I like to make semi-ornate headdresses, and I love feathers, so therefore you see feathers. There's pieces of suede involved. There is metal that I hammered, abalone shells going around their faces, and the wallpaper has sort of a dreamy look because I wanted this piece to be sort of dreamy. So therefore, we have thoughts going back and forth, and that's how I feel, or how I felt when I did this piece.
And Beverly, is that background still a wallpaper background?
Yes, it is. Sometimes when it's not as big as I want it to be, I have April Tracy, who's out of Orange. She also has a beautiful, beautiful studio in Manna in Jersey City. Mm-hmm. And April will enlarge it to my liking, because everything is not as big or as small as you like it. But April has a business whereby she does that. She also makes prints and glisses, and she sells supplies for artists. Her name is April Tracy. But that piece of wallpaper she enlarged for me, so it's on archival paper, and I like it.
I use April Tracy too for my print work. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great.
April Tracy, everyone.
Yeah. Her being an artist, she understands the vision of what you're trying to create, and she usually takes whatever I want to do and makes it better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's April. But this is my piece. I have another two pieces on the table now that have two wallflowers in each in them, and I'm real excited about that. They should be done within the next couple of months.
Well, I love the direction it's going in. I love how intensely they're looking at each other too.
Yeah, actually, it's giving guidance. I always felt very ugly when I was little. And my grandmother always, although she wasn't, a touchy-feely grandma with all that hugging, carrying on, she always made me feel stronger.
Nice,
And that's where this piece is coming from.
nice. We're gonna move to the next piece. This is, Layo, let me know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Lufa Akatangula.
I guess it's a by no means happen. Should I talk about this one or the other one? It doesn't matter.
We can wait to talk. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in on this one a little bit though, so I want to do that. Could you pronounce it correctly for me?
It's Lufa Akutangula, with in brackets Lufa.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. So this is one of the second head I actually made. The first one I opted to talk about, so maybe I will talk about that when it gets there. But so this is how men would wear head ties in, well, Nigeria generally, like different tribes. The headdress is important. So my mom, from a young age, we always made fun of her that her gele, which is what it's called gele. We'll say her gele was so high she'll block the person in church behind her, and people would be grumbling. But it was always a thing to see her Sunday morning or any event she's going out for, just tying her gele. And I thought that was and is still a very beautiful thing to see, like how we as women carry ourselves and these kind of crowns we just wear about, in celebration or for occasions and just, in community together. So these are all real textiles that she's worn before. So for me, this is a way of the connections I have with my mom and exploring that, I guess, which I didn't talk about as much before. So I kind of raided her closet. A lot of her gele, like I have like 50 with me now, so maybe 50 heads, I don't know. And I just enjoy working with it and making them different shapes and exploring that narrative. But mostly I kind of work with three things. So the gele and the headpiece is one thing. The Ghana must go bags, which are actually the patterns. So what I always make my flora, fauna with are the bags. They come in like different shapes. And I think if you see the one to the top right, you can see the red checkered print under. So I like to play with the different ways they come, some more colorful and tropical, and some more of the generic ones we see. And then I work with the lines on the face themselves. So I don't know if people are familiar with Ife heads, but that's like kind of these heads you read about or have seen at some point maybe. So they're Yoruba artifacts and they were found in Ife, which is a town in Yoruba land. And I kind of realized that even though I am Yoruba, like our family migrated from Ife to Lagos generations ago. And also my mom's side of the family is from there. So I feel very drawn to the place, not just as tribal, but in terms of where we migrated from. And then working with the bag as material on migration, being a Yoruba woman living in New York, and also with all the connotations that come with that, I enjoy speaking from that experience. I didn't used to talk about myself in my work before, but I guess the more I've stayed here, the more introspective it's become and kind of looking at my experiences. I used to talk about, well, African migration, but then it's like, what about my experience? I'm a migrant in New York. Like, what do I have to say? And I guess I felt outside of a lot of conversations or like, I didn't know if people wanted to hear what I had to say, but it felt very empowering making these heads and being like, no, I have a place in this narrative. There's a place for my culture and my tribe, and just to speak from my experiences and not have someone else tell that story for me. So it started as, I guess, self-portraits. Someone called it that. And I do enjoy the idea of the repetition of the face. I think repetition is emphasis. Repetition is presence. I kind of play with these figures hidden but also open within this really no place but some place. I like that they're freestanding heads like in this on this simple block of wood. And for me, a block of wood can be so many things and come with so many connotations. So that's also a play on the narrative I'm exploring. But yeah, I that's the second one I made, and I think I'll talk about the first one. And the other thing is they are giving their binomial names. That's why I title them. So that's like the Latin genus first, which would be Lufa, and then the second part of the name as classification. I like the idea of classification and also looking at race, gender classification. For me, that's just a play on what it's actually called, but also looking at the study of objects, the study of Blackness, the study of these artifacts that kind of play into it, at least how I think through it. And the plants are all medicinal herbs and have been used in their various healing properties. I like to point that out because of my own family history working with herbs and my ancestors that were herbsmen, and my mom is a pharmacist as well. So I kind of look through those lenses and how I'm thinking through them and taking agency in reappropriating them in this way.
Very nice.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna move on to, this is X+3 Mothership by Komikka Patton. And this is ink and acrylic paint.
Yes. So I would actually like to read the artist statement that goes with this series.
Okay.
All right. Mother used to scream when I heard her choking on my skin. I've often awakened at the dawn of day by the most heart-rending shriek. I've never known if it's from pain or pleasure, seconds before death or orgasm. The louder she screams, the more I blacken. No words, no tears, no prayer to her victim seems to quiet her piercing screams from its haunting surface. And the scream is all over, strained or fragile, so strong and then strained again. A timeless song. It ruptures, stops, and then starts again. Echoing and redoubling again, again, and again, a summoning and eradicating of realms. Songs of people in futuristic and lost places that insert pauses, fast forward, and rewind. Where X marks the moment, the bomb and shelter. Screams that manifest into depictions that ink, cut, remember, and bridge past, present, and future. Death, life, black, and time. X, an immortal melody that converges at the intersection of awareness, alien abduction, power, and emancipation. Set on a post-apocalyptic scene, where blackness is capable of expressing itself. Mother give her our earth bring back. And so this piece was, like I said, inspired by my trip to South Africa in 2017. And when I came back, I had a total appreciation for my African diaspora. Not that I didn't have one beforehand, but it's just something when you go back to the motherland. I was also reading Fred Moten at the time, and just his words really touched a string of my heart, and just his words talking about time and the continuation of time, and talking about screams, and particularly when it came to in the case of Blackness, that little short story was amazing. And so Mother became me trying to kind of bridge these gaps in time. I wanted to create work that was timeless. I wanted to create work that could exist 50 years ago, but also 500 years in the future. What would a mothership look like if it had African artifacts on it or African mass deities on it? Yeah. So,
Very nice. Beautiful, Komikka. We're gonna move on to, I'm gonna zoom in as much as it'll let me. So this is Layo Bright. Parky, again, I apologize, Layo, if I'm not pronouncing these correctly, and please correct me when I botch it. Parky Big Labosa, Ivory.
Yeah, so it's been interesting to me to kind of go through study of plants. I guess I really liked biology growing up, but That is a far cry from where I am now. But I've been really studying plant morphology, which is the exterior um, study of plants and how they present, not really the interiors like skulls and stuff. So I like to study how they form to make the sculptures at least and kind of interpret them as sculptural forms to frame the head and the portraits I make. I with this one, Iru is I know some of these things culturally in what they're called in Yoruba, so sometimes I use like the Yoruba name in brackets after the scientific name. And Iru is a spice we would use a lot in cooking, so it's more like umami flavoring. It's very strong smell, but it's also it makes the food really tasty. So not just for like the medicinal properties, of course, but also cooking and culturally what that connotes and um, how it brings people together, but it's also culturally significant. I I guess this one was just exploring that, and I made a cushion. This is the only one that has a cushion. Um, I just felt like a place of refuge for this one. Something soft in the midst of this like lonely hard exterior of the wood. It just felt like it needed something as a place of rest and respite from everything. And I guess I felt that way at the time, just with a lot of political things going on and just being in the middle of all that. And I think there are lots of discussions on like immigration and I think then the whole Trump shithole countries thing came up. Of course, you know, the whole bans that came up after that subsequently was very troubling. But I kind of wanted some respite and to have some calm amidst all of that and just to think through things. And the figures I have, the unlike the heads with the eyes open, I don't open the eyes of my portraits, and that's significant just to, I guess, as self protection, but also as agency and deciding how to present oneself, how much is known, how much isn't, and also access. I think one thing I like to play with is the lack of the gaze, but it still has presence. It still has, each one has its own personalities that come with it. And although they're renditions of self, I feel that they take on their own characters in that way.
I really love that, the fact that you put so much thought in the idea of keeping their eyes closed for those specific reasons. That's really powerful.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying to, with each one, kind of think through what is my gesture. Like, it's one thing to imbibe the artifacts, but in my own present state, what am I trying to say? And what is my own contribution to the conversation? So I guess that was a stylistic choice, and also, I guess, is also a way of feeling around issues. I've been working with glass recently, which isn't any of the works you see today, but I'm kind of working more with visibility and invisibility, there and not there, how much presence I'm allowed to take up, and women in my family, which I'm extending it to, kind of the, I guess, removal of the history of women and how much, you know, we see of that just generally politically, even in our own family personal lives. And I'm trying to extend that further, not just to how the eyes are closed, but also to the materiality. Still working along these lines though.
Very beautiful, very nice. We're gonna go to the next work. This is Beverly's. My name is Mariposa, made in 2017.
Okay. I don't know if everyone knows that a mariposa means butterfly in Spanish. And mariposa was a bigger piece that I did. The leather is imprinted with hundreds of butterflies. And what I did was I blocked out what I wanted the shape I wanted, and still maintain the beauty of that piece of leather that I dived into a box for. This is the only wallflower that I've done that is actually a real person. And it's my friend Tracy, who has a beautiful, beautiful retreat in Guyana, the Pandama retreat. And that face is the face of Tracy. Tracy loves butterflies also. And on her head are clusters of butterflies that I've glued together to make a crown for her. Going down the center of that piece is a rhinestone zipper. It's very beautiful. And there's different types of wallpaper that I use for the background, but some of the wallpaper was designed by good old Walt Disney. The doves that are surrounding her are from his collection of wallpapers. So,
Oh, had wallpapers.
mhm. What say?
I said I didn't know Walt Disney had a collection of wallpaper.
Oh yeah. In my back room, which I'm sure if the fire department came in, are many books of wallpaper. I do give a lot of them away, though. I share my books, but yes, I have 3 books of wallpaper designed by Walt Disney.
This is beautiful. This is one of my favorite pieces of yours in the show, Beverly.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love Mariposa. She's been all over. She's been all over.
We're gonna go to the next one. This one is also Beverly's. This is I am known as
Mbali. Mbali is a Zulu word for plants, if I'm not mistaken. And her leather is the design of her leather looks like snake skin. So she has I cut out I love cutting things out. I meticulously cut out all of those plants from one piece of wallpaper, and she has a tail at the end. It's a crocodile. It's an animal tail. Either crocodile, I don't know. It's either crocodile or alligator tail. And I wove a piece of wood into that. But it looks like she might have a little marijuana on her head too. When I cut that out, I didn't know what it was. I just said, this looks good, it'll fit. So that's where that piece comes from. But her name Mbali means plant, flower.
And when you say alligator or crocodile tail, do you mean like an actual tail from an animal or?
Yes.
Wow.
I have 3 tails,
Mm-hmm.
crocodile, and I'm saying crocodile and alligator. I get those 2 mixed up. I think an alligator is very thin.
Mm.
Yeah, that they're alligator tails.
Nice.
And I have 3 of them, but that one worked its way on to Mbali. Nice. And I love her expression because she looks like she's really meditating.
Yeah, she looks very peaceful.
Very serene, yes.
We're gonna go to our next piece. This is I Forgive Myself by Josie Roebuck. And this is made with oil pastel, charcoal, and embroidery cut on wood and panel.
Yeah. So with this piece, I started with unstretched canvas. I sewed everything on, did the oil pastel, the charcoal. Then I would cut out my wood panel, the shape I wanted it, and then I would cut out the canvas in order for it to all fit together. And even with this piece, before this, I was working 18 by 24 inches or smaller with my embroidery. So this was the first step I took in order to get out of my comfort zone and to really push myself to do kind of a life-size figure in a way. And this piece is also paired with a poem from a book that I'm currently writing at the moment. So my book is about trauma and how different victims and their stories, but also the healing process of that, and how we have all different ways of coping with such an event. But I'll read you the poem that goes with it. So, trauma is like a stalker, something that follows you during the day, night, and your dreams. A stalker that never leaves your side. But remember, you can always fight, speak up, and believe in yourself. For the stalker has no power over you. Trauma is like a stalker. Remember to forgive yourself, for it wasn't your fault. It's never the victim's fault. The stalker has no power. You are free. Now forgive yourself. And even with this piece, I am highlighting the vulnerability, blame, and shame that a victim might go through. But it's also about the healing process of a victim and how, in order to fully heal, you have to forgive yourself. You can't blame yourself for what has happened to you, because that was out of your hands. It wasn't your fault. And, you know, it's time to move on and accept this is your identity now, and you can cope and still live a normal life. So that's what this piece is about.
Very nice. Next up is Beverly with I Am Pie.
Pay.
Hey, sorry.
I named, that's okay. That's quite all right. Pei is in Chinese. Pei means bud, and my violin teacher's name is Pei. So that's how she got her name. But her background is flower buds, rose buds, which I thought was appropriate for for her name. She's strung with glass beads, and on her head is a wire a wire structure that I've had for many years. A friend of mine went to China, and she brought that back for me. It was wrapped around some stationery, and it fit perfectly on Pei's head. So I just put a few more embellishments on there, and that's Pei. She is one of the larger pieces, although it doesn't look very large here. She's a little bit one of the larger pieces that I did, and she's one of the few of the first of the series that I started. And like all of the others, her pod is also a yellow goldish, more mustardy color pod of leather.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and now we're at Theda. Theda, Wonder Woman selfie. Theda?
I just needed to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Didn't know if you laughed or not.
No, I'm here. And actually, I'm thinking I should have caught this, but this is the wrong image. But we can always fix that later. This is actually a work in progress image that I didn't notice till just now. But this is a piece that I started working on, or rather this series, this selfie series. I have done several of these using the same character with the large afro. It is 48 inches by 36 inches. It uses all recycled materials. We can't really zoom in here, but the little circles and things you see are bottle caps, baby food caps. There is beading, paper. In this particular piece, it has a lot of imagery related to Wonder Woman, both from comics and fabrics that I had collected, and magazine, newspaper clippings. I went to see the movie Wonder Woman a couple of years ago with my mom, and she had such an emotional reaction to the movie because she's in her 80s, and she's like, I've really never seen a female character that was that strong. in a blockbuster, like it was an action movie led by a woman. And she's like, what's happening? And for me, it was just another action movie, Wonder Woman. I grew up loving Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, like the life would stop when that would come on TV in the late 70s, early 80s. And so I just really had a reaction to my mom really feeling the power of seeing a strong female character in a blockbuster Hollywood movie. And then when I went back into my studio, I was like, well, if Wonder Woman was a Black woman, she'd have an Angela Davis afro, and she'd be immune to humidity. She could do anything, and she'd be powerful, and she'd draw you in and make you look. And in all my works, in my mixed media works, it's a multiple look, because each of the elements that are in there are layers. This piece was several months doing. If you look behind me, there's another one kind of in progress. I'm going to do a quarantine version of her, and this probably will be the end of the series that I do. But what I find most compelling about her is that young people, all sorts of people, they look 2, 3, 4 times, and every time they look, they see something different. And she was designed with that in mind. When in the time that it takes to put her together, over the course of months, I might step away, take something away, add things, and even myself, when I look, I have moments of serendipity where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And she's supposed to make you sort of be in awe of her power. I've taken high-res photos of the image. Actually, the completed piece is the one that's behind you in the image on the card, Christy. So I took her image, I printed it on 8 by 12 foot fabric, and then invited people to my studio to embroider and sew onto her, and took her and blew her out of like crazy. That was the original piece that was supposed to be in the show. Huge, massive tapestry, 2 months of sewing. I mean, over 300 buttons sewn onto the thing, mirrors and trim, you name it, it's on there. And most people, when they see her, they're like, whoa, how did, and I just, we don't get a whoa in a good way all the time. I want someone to see this powerful Black woman and say, whoa, walk up to her and get up close, rather than standing back, which is what often happens in real life. And so that's her job. And I'm so proud that she does that, because everywhere she shows, people step up to her and they want to get in deep with her. And that just creates an opening for people to see Black women for who they really are.
Yeah, the tapestry version of this piece is so powerful, and it's large. I remember you exhibited it in one space where it was like hanging over a banister on like the second level of a 2-story
Alcove, Visual Arts Center of New Jersey in Summit. Well, when they invited me to show in that space, I went and looked at the space, and that's when I decided to make the tapestry. So I made this tapestry specifically for that space, but it's showing now at Art in the Atrium. It showed at Newark's Arts Festival. It's shown during Black History Month in Jersey City, in the main city hall. Like the mayor of Jersey City, when he sees me, he's like, yo, you made the big afro. And I'm like, I'm glad you know. So yeah, she brings joy to so many people, but she's really meant to be almost a microscope so that people can actually see.
Very nice. We're gonna go to the next piece. This is Mother Giving Birth While God's in the Room. And this is by Komikka.
Hi. Maybe the title is Mother Giving Birth to Mother While God's in the Room. And this is kind of like a pre-Divine Mother comic piece before my comic, but I would like to read a little piece of the comic just so you understand kind of where this is coming from. This is kind of like when you look in the mirror and realize you're turning into your mother. Yeah. I don't know my mother. I don't know my mother, but I wonder if I cried at the separation or if my birth was too violent, too sudden in my kidnapping. I wonder if my mother's scar is still raised and ugly, or is it flat and barely there, disappearing with time. I wonder if my birth can be called a birth at all. Was I stolen, taken, and left homeless and motherless, missing the body, my castle? With the walls that moved and vibrated with mother's voice and sometimes others, I wish I knew my mother enough to ask about my first home. I don't know my mother, but I know women like her, born in river water, shaped and molded from Carolina red clay and grit, sand in between the gaps of her teeth, but gums black, tongue pink, and skin brown. And so, just as a, a little thing to say, I do know my mom. It's just a matter of knowing her as a woman, knowing her beyond the veil of what a mother is supposed to be, realizing that she is human. And as I come of age, I'm 26, just turned 26, but as I get older, I realize that my mother's decisions were actually the best that she could do at the time. And so this is kind of an appreciation to my mom, right? And as I turn into her, it's kind of like a happy transition.
It's beautiful. So we're back to Theda in her Big Mouth series, and this one is titled Zero Fucks.
So this whole series is a commentary on the things that I have to, this is sort of the mask I wear in my corporate job. So I often have to keep my mouth shut. If I'm passionate when I speak, I'm an angry Black woman. And if I just really can't say what I want to say often, what I did for this particular series, take all the things I wanted to say that I couldn't say. And really, I do want to tell people, I just really don't, like when they're running their game, I'm just like, listen, I got no fucks to give. So you really can't impact me. And it took a long time to get here. I used to care. And I used to be upset, and I used to be, you know, in my head about it and not be able to sleep because of it. And I realized by not giving a fuck, that's a superpower. And when you get to zero fucks, they really don't know what to do with you. And they have no power over you. So I made this piece as the last statement in this series of multiple bodies of works, where it's things that I want you to say, that I want to say that I can't say, but in the end, I really just, you know, I got no fucks to give, so therefore you have no more power over me. The mouth is a large mouth, it's three-dimensional, you can't really tell that here, but all the elements in this piece are all recycled things. All things that I recycled from work events that I had to participate with. So literally, you know, galas I might have gone from, even the sequence and little doodads in the piece, every single thing in here is related to materials I picked up while I was at work to imbue how I feel about work and put it in here. And the little circular piece at the top, I've made a series of these pieces. I think maybe I have one around here somewhere, but they're little gel memory caps. I use self-leveling gel, and I set these memories, they're moments in time. So there's a little pink army man in there that sort of denotes the struggle, but there'll be little pieces that are settled in those little moments And that's like a bow in the hair that I put there. So each one of those little gel capsules will give you a clue as to who I'm talking to, where I was, what this was about, and that moment in time. So when I look at this, when I look up close, I can remember all those details.
Mhm.
And when I post these things, I tag the people that they're about so that they get to experience it too. Because, when I can't say it in the meeting and I feel disempowered, well, no one can tell me what I can do in my work.
I love that
Artwork.
little extra bit of information there.
Yeah, and yeah, they'll be like, I inspired that. And I'll be like, yeah, you dumb fuck.
Nice. So we're back to Beverly, and this is They Call Me Becky.
They call me Becky, who I named after my Aunt Becky. Becky. Becky, Rebecca, comes from the Bible, and she's wearing a shawl, which is also leather, lace leather, or leather lace. I don't know which direction, but I love this piece because it's my Aunt Becky. I made those little teeny weeny tassels on her head because I couldn't find any that were teeny weeny enough for me. So that's who she is. But I didn't know my Aunt Becky very well, but she was my grandma's sister, so she's actually my great aunt. I didn't know her very well because when we were little, we'd all pile in the car and go to Elizabeth, to Aunt Becky's house. And she had all these stairways in her house that would go all up and down, and you'd pop out in the kitchen. And so this piece is dedicated to my Aunt Becky. She has a big medallion in the middle of her shawl, and her pod sort of looks like a long dress, a long green dress, and that's my Aunt Becky, short for Rebecca.
Nice.
Mhm.
I love the lace shawl. I can't believe that's made out of leather.
Yes, it is. I dug in a box, boy. Sometimes my feet are hanging out because I'm down in the bottom of these huge boxes looking for scraps in the city.
Nice.
So yeah.
This is also Beverly's. This is titled I Am Sage.
That's Sage. And Sage, this is another piece where I, instead of placing her on the wallpaper, I cut out all of that. I cut out all of the leaves. I find cutting to be very therapeutic. I have little scissors and I just sit and cut away. But we all know what a sage is, a person who's very intuitive, and Sage has feathers. She's holding feathers, and her pod is embossed with figures. You can't quite see them. They're very faint, but all over her pod are stamped figures. And Sage is usually known as a very wise old woman. And that's Miss Sage.
Nice. This is Theda's Big Mouth, Insider, Outsider.
Yeah, so this is another one in that same Big Mouth series, and oftentimes I feel like an insider and an outsider at the same time. I totally related to what Josie was saying about being multiracial, so am I. And my background is German, Polish, Trinidadian, and Bayesian. So, and Jewish. So I'm gefilte fish and conch fritters and Tums when it's family reunion. So because of that, I've always felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. And even though like in my industry, I'm like a senior executive and I'm at the highest levels, and many people think of me as being wildly successful, I still feel like an outsider. And in many ways, I feel like an imposter. I'm sure many people know about the imposter syndrome. So this is about feeling that way. Even though other people view me as successful, I don't see myself that way because I'm still seeing myself through the lens of a, 14-year-old girl that didn't fit in. And so inside or outside is part of that conversation. And this is not something I normally talk about because, most people be like, get over it already. But, when you have those experiences coming up, they don't leave you when you become an adult. You just have to learn to manage them. And I manage them by putting the conversation into the art so it doesn't hold power over me anymore.
And Theda, after we had gotten to know each other a little bit, I remember having a conversation with you about that whole idea. And I was so shocked to know that about you because I just see you as just like a confident, strong woman. And to know that you have that, those same feelings that so many
everybody every single person on here has that same feeling, and if they don't, they're lying to themselves. But the reality is we all feel that way. It's just how well do we hide those feelings from other people. And in my artwork, I feel like I don't need to hide. In other areas of my life, I do. And yeah, I mean, listen, I was this shy kid with the lopsided afro and the Coke bottle glasses in the back of the room because my name, both my name, Theda and Sandiford, no matter how you look at the alphabet, I was going to be at the end of it. Mm-hmm. So I always felt like I didn't really fit in anywhere. And even just finding my way in the art world, I decided to not fit in and just do my own thing and build my own community. And what happens is all of a sudden now you fit because you built your own tribe.
Yeah.
Teach.
Beverly's part of my tribe.
So this next piece is Checkered Blue on Yellow, and this is by Layo.
I was muted. So this is 2020 recent, as at 2 weeks ago. I've started screen printing. So one of my friends taught me how to. And I think while I can't work in the glass studio, because earlier this year I had a class at Urban Glass and really started exploring the lines of the bags and how I use them, but sadly can't. And you can check it on my Instagram page, which is just my name, to see an example of that sketch. So I had to do something else to expand how I'm looking at the pattern of the bags. I wanted to start deconstructing them, playing with it, making mine, and kind of eventually interweaving narratives into that. So this is the beginning of that. I think this is the second print I made. And this isn't a conventional color that the bag comes in, which is me starting to look at how I can have my own voice in this and explore what it means. I was reading and doing my research on the bag pattern and how it has its, different countries have used it, are using it. It's called different things. And I was reading, it's called Zimbabwe bag in South Africa. It's called Ghana Must Go in Nigeria. It's called Chinatown Totes in America. It's called Tutenkaffer in Germany. And I was just like, wow, all these different things tied to different countries. I want to kind of explore different colors and different countries' colors while doing this. So that's the beginning of this project. And I guess allowing myself to explore and not feel so fixed in what I'm doing with the sculptures that I can't unravel the materials I'm working with. So this is an edition of 5, I believe. And I made 3 so far, and now, well, today, this evening, or tomorrow, depending, I want to start incorporating images of women in my family. So my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my mom, who I've started making sculptures of, but it's in my room right now. So I think that will give me a different I guess, entry point into how I'm approaching this, who I'm talking about, how I'm exploring this family, maternal, collective narratives that I'm, working with. And yeah, I'm excited for it.
I really like the direction of the abstraction that you're going into.
Like, I didn't even think of it. It's interesting. I never even thought of it that way, but like,
Sorry. Okay, so now we're at Theda, Big in a Room.
So this is one of 5 works that are a direct conversation I had at work related to an event that I was asked to do at South by Southwest. And the event went exceedingly well. But then I got chastised for it because, you're not supposed to do well when people give you impossible tasks. They want you to fail. And I was told that I was too big in a room. Now, I just shared to you before that I am shy and insecure like everybody else. And so I was like, what are you talking about? So I was really mad, but I couldn't say anything at the time. And I really wanted to put that conversation, what I wanted to say, which was, I will not dim my light to accommodate your insecurity. And I couldn't say that at that moment, but when I went home, I went to the studio and I decided to make a mask. So this is the mask that I wear when I can't say. Before I moved into Big Mouth, this was how I was communicating that before I decided that I wanted to use the mouth as a representative of that. And the stars on the shoulders and all of that are related to feeling that not only am I a boss in hiding my true feelings, I'm also someone that you should watch out for, because I will find a way to get you for what you did to me. I was very surprised by the reaction that this particular series had, particularly amongst people who, like, I'm talking about you, and I find that that's who wants this piece. And so I've sold most of the pieces in the series specifically to people who would be one of the people I would be wearing this mask for. So it's an interesting oxymoron, and it's not like I'm hiding the truth of what the piece is, but for those individuals that are drawn to it, I think they're drawn to whatever insecurities they have in themselves that forces this imposing their will upon other people. It's just, so for me, it's not, the buyer's not who I thought it would be, but I'm glad it's those people, because they get to take a little bit of me with them and maybe think about their actions in the future.
Nice.
But if I was to say, this is all paper, there's gel. I love to do designs using line work, using puff, what's it, the ink that you would put, 3-dimensional ink that you would put on t-shirts. You guys ever do this as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
I do that, I do my line work, and then I do a series of gel gloss over it so that it is transparent, and then I can layer things underneath. So in this work, you will see little statements. There'll be literally the receipts from the event. So everything in these works are directly tied to the actual moment in time that inspired the work. So there'll be receipts, plane tickets, the names of the people who were present. And that's why I'm saying, like, when someone buys this and their name is in the piece, that's not a good thing. But they buy the piece. So I'm like, thank you.
We all have different levels of introspection, I guess.
I mean, like literally, I'm getting people back with this work. I'm like getting you back.
Beverly?
The name of this piece is I Am Called Raven. And there's a lot of meaning in her name. First of all, I'll describe the piece. It's sort of a metallic gray leather, and going down the center of her chest are antique buttons that have been embossed with a woman's face. She also has a string of crisscross silver beads, um, going back and forth all the way down around the buttons, and a poof on her head with some organza behind her. The name Raven, it has a lot of meaning. In Old English, it means a dark-haired woman, but usually the name Raven, or the bird, the raven bird, it has a very negative connotation, like people sort of associate it with, ominous time, death, anything evil, Edgar Allan Poe type raven. But the actual bird, the actual raven, is a very, very intelligent bird. And throughout history, it's, for different groups of people, it's had different meanings. A person a young lady who's been named Raven, has really positive attributes. Like, they like to keep peace, they like to have people around them, they like harmony. So the raven takes on a lot of meanings. This is one of my favorite pieces. There's mention of the raven in the Bible, that Noah sent out the raven to fly out over the waters, and it was the flapping of the raven's wings that dried up all the water. I know we know that, if you're familiar with the Bible and Noah, he sent out some doves, but he also sent out the raven to dry up the water. And it's also said that if a raven comes to you, if you see a raven and you're thinking and wondering, oh, what should I do? Or bop, you really should stop and listen, because the raven is known as a bird that's bringing you some type of decision or some type of message. They always bring a message. And like I said, this is one of my favorite pieces, because there's so much meaning and so much written about the raven. And so that is Raven.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move on to the next piece. This is Komikka Patton, Pillars of Creation.
Hi. So this is kind of where my work has moved to. I created this 2019 at a art residency that I was having out in Jersey, Gutenberg, shout out. And so this was based off of, I think it was in the New York Times, the 100 most influential photos. It was like the spacecraft. Hubble had took this picture of the creation of a star. And so I was really fascinated by that image. So I wanted to do a piece or installation piece that was focused on greed and me as an artist needing money to also continue to create work. So it's really funny. I thought of this idea of this huge bag of money that is literally secreting like slime and nastiness and peace. And me collecting it all because I need it to continue my practice. And I also, a little side note, I do a little bit of street art, and my name is Martian, so I had to put myself in the spaceship, of course. And so it's kind of like a play done in probably 3 months a play on this idea of greed and overcoming greed, or maybe not looking at greed from one perspective, but looking at money as a form of not necessarily necessary, but maybe in the sense that I need to buy paper cuts necessary, if that makes any sense.
Nice. And this was an installation, you said, at Gutenberg Arts, correct?
Yes, yes.
Nice.
And I recommend all you guys apply. Amazing community and amazing print studios. So, yeah.
This is Beverly. I'm called Winona.
Oh, Winona. The name comes from the American and Native Indians. It's a Sioux word, and it means firstborn daughter. And Winona's pod is made out of brown embossed leather. On her head, her crown are bottle caps that I've collected from all my travels. There's some in there from Cuba, Mexico. There's some from Africa in there, and they're all flattened bottle caps. And she also has a eagle feather in her hair, in her head, that a friend gave me. If you could see her face, she does look rather troubled. She looks a little bit sad, but she's still beautiful. They're leather, I guess you could, leather fringe also going around her body, and silver. I can't remember what they're called right offhand, but you can find them on belt that you buy in Mexico, California. The names of them are evading me, but her wallpaper is she has 2 types of wallpaper behind her that I found the mix of those 2 to be pleasing. She's also another one of my favorites, but I think I say that about all of them. Although her expression is sad, or pensive, let's call it pensive. Like I say, I'm very interested in expressions and what people see and read into the expression without me saying anything about them. So, and I'd like to name my wallflowers. As you can see, it's from all ethnicities. It's the name that I'm interested in. I don't care where it came from. It's the name and how well it fits with the wallflower.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
This is Outsider by Theda.
This is one of 3 pieces that I'll take you through a narrative of how you're impacted by gossip. So this is when someone's talking about you, what it feels like for me, where you really don't see me or know me, yet you think you do. So there's little things in here. These works are digital works where I took photographs of the mixed media piece. Basically, the previous piece that you saw, as I was making them, I was taking photos. And I really wanted to extend the narrative and really, because after the incident that caused the making of the piece, then people were gossiping about it, right? That's what happens at work. And I really wanted to, after the effect, show what happens with gossip and how it made me feel, which basically means disappeared and invisible.
This is also Theda's. This is Side Eye.
So also with the digital work based on one of the other pieces that I'm working on. As I'm working on the pieces, I sometimes use a lot of work and do a lot of work in my computer. Prior to quarantine, I commuted between New York and LA every 2 weeks. So for the last 5 years, I basically lived in both cities, traveling back and forth. And on that 6-hour flight, I would commit to making a piece. I'm going to make that studio time. And I really wanted to talk about the side eye. I wanted to give certain people, again, all this entire series of work is all work that is a reflection of conversations and situations that occurred at work. And sometimes I'm giving people the side eye, and I just wanted to show that there are layers to conversations, layers to individuals, and yeah, this is what the side eye looks like when I'm giving it to you.
The Unseen by Josie.
All right, yes. So I started this painting fall 2019, and I finished it sometime this spring. But with this piece, I was questioning what a safe space was. And I was also intrigued by the concept of camouflage and what that means to a victim. So basically, with this painting, I wanted my figure and a domestic space to blend together, really just exemplifying that usually when a victim has experienced something so traumatic, they don't want to share the story. They want to hide behind a mask. So this is what this piece is about, but really it's focusing on another healing process of being a sexual assault victim. In order to fully heal again, you need to come out of your camouflage and confront your story and confront the people that have put you through something so traumatic as the situation. So this is what that piece is about.
Beautiful. This is Theda's Masking Fear.
Yeah, so this is the mask that I'm wearing when I'm confronting the gossips. So you can see it has a lot of the similar elements from the previous piece. It's a triptych, but you know, I often display them differently or together. Sometimes it's more interesting to show them apart. Sometimes it's more interesting to show them together. But this is a mask. And again, it comes from that whole conversation of being big in the room and then all the people talking about it after the fact.
This is Josie's, The Repetition of Traumatic Memory.
Yeah, so the title comes from a book called We Heal from Memory, and it's comparing 4 different poets who have dealt with sexual assault either childhood or as adults. One poet is Anne Sexton, and she experienced it as a child. And so it talks about how we go through all these acts in order to try to awaken our memory of such, you know, what has happened to us. So with this piece, I've referenced Komikka a couple of times. So this is her Death Seizes a Woman with Indian ink. And so it's in this painting, and there's another one that's called The Haunted Path, which is not in the show, but it's just showing this repetition of me using Komikka's work, my portraiture, and then me sewing into unstretched canvas. And that, you know, opening and closing is similar to a victim retelling and sharing their stories over and over again.
This is Layo's, Anacardium occidentalis, Ipo cashew.
Yes. So this is the first sculpture I ever made from the series. I was in a residency called Try Again, and it's in Bushwick, and I loved the name of the residency as it goes Try Again, where they were like, if you can't get something the first time, you keep trying. So the idea of the perseverance, and they were very hands-on. I've never been in a residency like that where I would always have these ideas and I could never actualize it. But they were very like, no, what is your idea? What do you need? What materials? This is how you do it. I was like, oh, okay. So this was one idea that I didn't abandon, and they really encouraged me to see it through. So I kind of decided to go with it. I needed to make a silicone cast. They were like, okay, silicone mold rather. And they're like, this is what you need. This is how you do it. And I just went based on instinct of what I was feeling at the time. I felt unseen. I felt like I also have things to say, and I wanted to have a visual way of rendering that. And I also was playing around with these wooden blocks that they had in the studio workshop then. I was like, no, I think just having this as a bark-like structure or part of a tree, this site of growth or landing or something would be really interesting. And I kind of just went with it. And yeah, it was very personal to me because the gaily, the head wrap here was one my mom wore for my sister's wedding. So it's symbolic to not just my mom, but my sister as well. And it's kind of bringing together these links between us as women, and very personal to me. If you zoom in, you can see little cashews I did in, coated with like gold pigment paint on the sides. And this is the only one that has that. Basically the work.
Nice. Layo, I wanted to ask you, the fabric, is it naturally gold, or did you treat it with something to create the gold texture?
So the fabric is gold, and that's what informed the face actually. So it was the fabric that informed the color of the face I made, and then I just started replicating that throughout with the subsequent ones that followed.
Nice. So this is Komikka's X+150 motherboard.
Yeah, so this is still a part of the Mother series. I don't want to sound too redundant, so yeah, this is a moment in which I was trying to capture ecstasy, capture this, I guess, excitement over being Black, right? We have this history of Blackness being condemned, and so I wanted to show a moment of complete ecstasy. My work deals with healing the mother wound, healing ourselves, mothering the earth, mothering our spirituality. And so this piece kind of encapsulates that.
Josie? No, I don't speak Swahili.
Yeah, so this piece is response to what a student said to me this past spring. And it's also addressing masks that people place upon me as being biracial and not knowing my true identity, or that I'm adopted by a white family. So it's basically like this student was saying, you're Black, so you can speak Swahili, and also I'm going to compare you to the Lion King. So this piece is just a response to those two things being thrown at me and how it wasn't true, and even me saying, no, I don't speak those things, you know, still persisting that that's my identity. So that's what this piece is addressing.
Nice. This is Theda's. Y'all are giving me a headache.
So I wanted to depict, I get chronic headaches, migraines, and I wanted, it's very hard to explain like how it feels. It's easier for me to be, well, let me show you. And so this I made literally for my doctor so that he would understand. So this was made on one of my flights back and forth between New York and LA. And it's based off of one of my earliest selfie series, and I did it all in the computer. So it was a photograph of a mixed media work. The original piece was 36 by 48. And then I took the image into Photoshop and added the drips and the pendulum styles and just kind of destroy the image and put it back together again so that I can show my doctor what my headaches look like.
Wow.
And then he got it, and I
Oh,
finally got prescribed the right medication, and now I feel much better.
Understand.
But he got it because I was like, well, you know, it starts kind of in the middle, and then it comes over my head like a helmet. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? But when I showed him this, he's like, oh, okay, all right. And then he wrote me the prescription.
Nice. They need a visual sometimes.
Yeah.
This is Beverly's Miss Ambivert.
Oh, yes. This is a sculptural piece. Miss Ambivert is basically the mother of all wallflowers. Like Josie, I use a mask of my face to do her. She stands about 72 inches in height. And underneath is an antique dress form. It's very old dress form. Her tunic top is made from leather, and on her chest is the tree of life. And hanging from the tree of life are small paper beads that I made. But her skirt, it looks like a solid skirt, but actually it's over 100 scallops. Her skirt is made from over 100 scallops of wallpaper. This is a piece that my friends helped me with. They each took pieces of paper and cut out the scallops, and brought them to me. And I put together the skirt to wrap around her. Her name, Ms. Ambivert, is a person who is a combination of an extrovert and an introvert, which is myself. Theda, which is
Preach.
which is myself. And she's wearing a crown, and she stands tall. She stands tall, and that's why I call her the mother of all the wallflowers. And it's really sort of kind of me. She has my face, and she's wearing earrings also, which are some of my favorite objects of adornment. And the earrings have each of the earrings have a picture of the Black Madonna on them, which you can't see right now, but if they ever open up that gallery, you can get in there. But then first I have to bring her. But that like I said, I like to do sculptural things also, and Ms. Ambivert is one of my sculptural pieces.
And Beverly, Judy is asking, what is the hair made of?
Well, actually, she has a stocking over her head, which has imprints of women on them. And the crown part sticks out. And it's a very ornate piece of embroidered fabric. So it sort of sits away from her head because she doesn't actually have hair. And on the top is a big jewel of turquoise up in the very top of her head. You can see a picture of her, a more close up on my website, which is Beverly McCutcheon Art, www.Beverly McCutcheon Art. And you can zoom in on some of the pieces that I've talked about today. But she has eyelashes and everything.
Nice. It's like one of your wallflowers broke free from the wall.
Absolutely, and took all the wallpaper with her. But I hid things in her skirt. Little pictures are in there. Things that interest me, like horses. I love horses, so you'll see some cowgirls in there too. And because I do believe I'm an old cowgirl. But you know, her skirt really has messages in themselves, but the skirt really represents things that I love are all mixed in her skirt as scallops. And like I said, there are like over 100 scallops to make that skirt.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The next piece we have is Blind Faith by Theda Sandiford.
Again, this is one of the digital pieces that I made on the plane. When I'm working on one of my larger mixed media pieces, I'm taking photos in progress. And especially when I'm traveling and I'm away from the studio, the reworking of the images digitally actually becomes like how I sketch in a way. By playing on the computer when I'm away from my paint. You know, Photoshop to me is no different than like your brushes or the different paints and mediums. I find a lot of enjoyment with playing with the images and working through some of the images as they're in progress digitally. And then when I look back, I find that some of the pieces I might make hundreds of digital sort of variations and choose one or two that represent what that body of work would be, what that particular piece would be. So this is all about an extension of the narrative from the original mixed media work that I had worked on.
Nice. This is Checkered Orange on Purple by Layo.
So this continues the screen prints I'm working on or started recently, and just exploring the pattern. Like I said, this one's just orange on purple. Yeah, I'm excited to see how the focus goes from, because in the sculptures it's more of a snippet within a material within the sculpture, but on its own here it is the work. And I guess that is really important for me, how I can have different aspects of my practice and provide more context, I guess, to how I'm working through the materials in my mind. Because material then becoming object in this way or subject is, I guess, transforming or kind of putting a lens on it in my mind or how I see it. And I think the lines, and I did say this in my artist statement, that at some point I was looking at the lines in the face, like with here, for example, because this is visible. So this is black glass, but like the lines show on the face and predominantly, and that's why I work with kind of like with how the effect artifacts are. But the lines on the back are also a whole thing as well, right? And I'm looking at lines of identity in self and culturally, and lines of migration and how I'm exploring that as well. So bringing them or showing how I'm thinking through those things in different respects is what I'm doing more with the 2D works as well.
And we are coming to our last piece in the exhibit. This is I See You by Theda.
Again, this is one of those pieces that I worked on digitally. You know, I'm sure this originally started as me thinking about insomnia, but then it transitioned into other things for me, in particularly related to conversations where, you know, the people who are down here talking, and then how that gets inside your head and becomes a part of your own narrative. And so it's me acknowledging those conversations that are in my head so that they can, you know, they became part of the hair, and then, well, your hair grows out and then you cut it off and then you move on. So that's really where I was coming from with this. This is one of those digital pieces I did on the plane flying back and forth between New York and LA. And, you know, especially now in quarantine, like I said before, I live in 2 cities and I have not gone anywhere. So you would think I'd have more time to be on my computer. I haven't done anything on my computer. So I look at these now when I see them as like a moment in time, and it's not that time right now. So I'm actually kind of having a moment just by going through these pieces now, just because I haven't looked at them in that context, because my life was going back and forth and creating work in this way. And that's not how I'm creating work right now.
So that is our exhibition. Before we leave and wrap up, I just want to encourage everyone to take the time to go into this gallery space on your own, and to explore the gallery. You can zoom in and out of individual artworks. And I just wanted to share with you on our website as well, we have information about the exhibit here. There's a PDF that you could flip through and get information on each artist. And we have the gallery that we were just on in our website that you could go straight to here on bsbgallery.com. You can purchase artwork. So if you go into the purchase artwork gallery, you can find everything that's available for sale. If you're interested in collecting artwork, or if you have a question, you can certainly email us and ask. And we have information on each of the artists. Each artist has their own gallery, and every single link goes to the individual artists' websites as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Unless anyone has any questions.
Christy, Ani, I really want to acknowledge you for the work that you put in. I work in digital media. I know how hard it is to do this, to build a interactive gallery space, to build the PDF, to do a digital catalog, to make a website that pulls all this stuff together. Any one of those things would have been a lot of work and commendable, but you did all of that. So I do want to acknowledge you guys for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that wasn't easy, because I do that for a living. And, you know, during the pandemic, this is new ground. Like,
Yes.
We're learning as we're going.
Do people buy work in this way? I don't know. Well, I do want to acknowledge the work that you put in. And I think forgive me if I speak for all the artists for this, but I know, because in my job, I have to do similar work. And I know how many people it takes to do that and how much effort it takes. So bravo to you. And thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share our work in this way.
Right.
Really, for real.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I'm just glad that all of you, stuck with it with us and continued to, show your work with us. I'm so glad to know all of you. I feel honored to know all of you, and your artwork is just so powerful, and it means a lot to me that you are working with us. So I'm so glad that we had this opportunity, and even though it's not the same as what we originally intended, I mean, I have to tell you, I feel like we got such a deeper view of everyone's work in this format. So we wouldn't have gotten that with the regular opening reception. So there's that. So yeah. Before we wrap up, we have to tell everyone about the upcoming events that we have. The first one we have is this Sunday. We are doing an Instagram Live interview and studio tour with Layo at 7 p.m. So that's this Sunday at our, you need to go on to our Instagram page at the BSB Gallery or Layo's Instagram page to see the Instagram Live. And that's Sunday at 7 p.m. And then after that, we have Beverly. She's also doing a studio tour on Instagram Live. Hers is going to be on May 27th at 7 p.m. And then Theda is doing a yarn wrapping Zoom event on May 30th at 1 p.m. Theda, do you want to explain what the yarn wrapping event is?
So I'm working on well, let me grab one of the things that I'm working on. So you can see I'm like all business on top and party on the bottom here. So I live on Zoom now. That's my life. So I'll be making this with people on Zoom and showing people how I make it and talking about making it and doing what I normally do in the workshop, which is talk about hair, my relationship to hair, other people who are participating, their relationship to hair and identity, and putting all of that into this conversation, which is about the politics of hair. Each of these ropes is imprinted. Actually, Christy, you worked on this rope during 14C. Just want to point that out. And so this is where it went, just so you know. So when I usually invite people into the studio to work on the ropes with me, and they get to put their story into the ropes, but obviously that's not a thing right now. So I'll be doing it on Zoom with other people, and this will be the first time I'm doing it with other people. I usually go on Instagram Live when I'm working on the work and just go live and see what happens and see who comes into the space. So this is an experiment to, one, teach people, like, you know, it's crochet, it's knitting, it's knotting, it's macrame, it's all of those things that you may have learned at Girl Scouts or at camp, or that your grandmother, your mom taught you and then you forgot about. That's what it was for me, and now I'm bringing that back into the forefront for me.
And Theda, if I'm just finding items around my house to make this along with you, what could I use?
You can use pretty much anything. You can use rope, old T-shirts that you cut up. I can show you how to make yarn out of old T-shirts, old pairs of jeans. I've even gone and made some of these using rope. This is rope light, so this lights up. So there's tons of hoses. Everyone's got stuff around their house that they can just use, and especially now during quarantine, I am using everything around my house and going through all of that and having fun going through those materials. And I'm a collector. I'm always constantly collecting things, and then I'm just waiting till I have just the right thing. But now that I'm here, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to get started using this stuff. And I do want to mention one other thing, Christy, if I may, because there's so many women on this call that are using mixed media works. I do a supply exchange, and I plan on I was supposed to do it but then this thing happened. So I'm going to be doing it in September, hopefully. So Beverly, I got stuff for you, and Layo, I got stuff for you. And Josie, I think I got some stuff for you too. So I don't really do drawings, so I don't have stuff for everybody. But I have so many things in my studio that when I see other people's work, I know it would be better served with them having it. And so I would like to give those things to other people. So yeah, if there's something you need, I may actually have it. And I don't know if all these people are on here, but a number of people from Jersey City were on here before that are part of my crew that are literally scouring the city, looking for stuff, going to schools, picking through garbage, in Goodwill, you name it. Every single day I get a bag of stuff in the basement, downstairs at the doorman of the building, and I usually, somebody dropped off some garbage. I was like, ooh, art supplies. So, yeah, so literally people drop off garbage bags of materials to my studio space on a weekly basis. I get several hundred pounds, I'm not even joking, of literally garbage that I go through and sort out and clean. And I have lots of stuff that I can give other people. So if you need stuff, hit me up.
Nice. So our last two events that I want to plug are they'll be in June, and those are with Komikka and Josie. Also Instagram Live, studio tour and interviews. Josie will be on Tuesday, June 2nd at 7 p.m. and Komikka will be Thursday, June 11th at 7 p.m. And so you just have to follow us on our Instagram at the BSB Gallery, and a notification will pop up and the event will be there. And, you know, we hope you can join us for one or more. And that's the wrap, guys. I hope everyone had a good time.
Did.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
It's so great to see you all. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
I want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you so much to all of our artists for participating in this exhibition. Have a good day. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Adios.